So I bought myself a little treat. I saw this on Instagram and I just had to have it. I think I have a palette addiction. Okay, so like I said, I saw this on Instagram and I just had to have it. Love watercolor palettes and I love wooden watercolor palettes. I love the look, so I really wanted to try it. Also, very curious to how painting with soil is going to go. These watercolors are made with soil. So it says that you are about to paint with soil. So let's open it and see what we got. Comes in this little bag. Little cards with some information on it. So this is the palette I picked. The color palette is the 12A. You are about to paint with soil. Their little information and their socials. And then just some information on the back as well. So let's just get into the palette because that's what I want to see. Okay. Okay, so this is beautiful. I have to say, I was pretty shocked at how small it is. It is very tiny. I don't know why I thought it was bigger, but it's not. Very small. It's also held together by magnets, so it closes with magnets, which is super cool. And then you have these tiny little watercolor balls. So let's get into swatching them because I'm super curious about how they perform. Yeah, let's do it. So I'm just going to start by dropping a little bit of water onto each color just to activate it and hopefully get the most pigment out of it. All right, so let's start with the first color here. And it's a nice brown shade. That's pretty pigmented. Impressive. This one feels a little more granular, this one I'm currently doing. Yeah, it's not as strong of a pigment, it's a lot lighter. It feels a little bit more granular, which is interesting. Got a yellow here, I think. Nice. Oh, this is really light and also very granular. Granulating, granular. Yeah, some of them feel creamier than others, and it's probably the pigment, I'm guessing. I wish they were a bit more vibrant, but I feel like when you're painting with soil, you can't expect too vibrant of a color. I don't know. And I also think I picked the more muted palette. Looking at the palettes again, the other one had some brighter colors. And I'm thinking, I always gravitate towards the muted ones, and then I kind of wish I got the more vibrant ones. So we'll see though. So I will say, because these are so small, it is a little hard to like pick up paint or enough paint to work with. I wouldn't be doing a big piece with these paints, right? It's just, there's not enough paint in here. So maybe for like small travel purposes, just like for sketching or something with your watercolor, these might be really nice. But yeah, I definitely wouldn't use it for a bigger piece. I'm also trying to think of what I could paint with these colors. Maybe a landscape-ish kind of thing. Maybe some just like muted florals. I don't know. There's a lot more brown than these than I expected. I expected more of like a reddish tone. I mean, that's kind of like a reddish brown, but It just feels like there's more browns in it than I was anticipating. So I don't really know if I totally love the color choice. Okay, I'm going to let these dry and then I'm going to show you up close kind of like the granulating effects that you get with this watercolor. Okay, so I want to show you up close like how granulating some of these colors are. Like I said, they're not that pigmented, but they have a lot of great texture if you are into that. I kind of wish the greens were a bit more vibrant and pigmented just because that's my favorite color and I like to paint a lot of florals or plants or something like that. So I feel like that's what I'd want to paint, but I don't know what I'm going to get out of this. But we're going to try to paint a little something. Maybe I'm going to try and paint a plant or maybe a floral or something. One thing I forgot to mention, which I do like about this palette, is they do have a little mixing well, which is super cute. I have the Beam paints, which are similar in the sense that it's like a wood little palette, same kind of size as well, and I love these. I find the Beam paints are actually a lot more pigmented and brighter, but one thing about having it on like a wood slice, you don't have a mixing palette, so I really like how this is nice and wooden, but you also have that little area for mixing, so I really appreciate that. Maybe I'm going to try and mix some colors just to see how they mix. I'm going to grab this like yellowy color, put it here. It's beating up quite a bit, so I might have to do something with this palette beforehand just to get an easier mix. I'm going to grab my green, see if I can make like a lighter green. They're hard to mix. Maybe it's just my palette. Maybe I can do like a leaf or something. Can you hear my baby crying downstairs? It's probably feeding time. Yeah, it's not as pigmented, which is kind of disappointing. I don't know if I was expecting it to be or not, but it's definitely not as pigmented, or some colors are not as pigmented as I'd like. These top three are probably the most pigmented, but like I said, I really love greens and stuff, so I kind of wish the green was a bit more colorful. Okay, so while I paint some doodles and test these paints out a little bit more, I'm going to tell you some things that I really enjoy about this company and these paints. The Art of Soil is very eco-friendly. Almost, well, actually none of their packaging came in plastic. It was a cardboard box. Everything was reusable, no plastic packaging at all, which was wonderful. The palette that I purchased is small, but they do have larger palettes. So if you do want either more paint colors or even larger, they're called eco pods, you can purchase those, which is great. And the one thing that is really cool about this stuff is that this palette is reusable and they sell the mini eco pods separately. So you can see that I'm using that green a lot. If I run out of that, or even if I wanted to try new colors once I'm done with these paints, I can purchase more mini eco pods to put in this palette at a later time, and they're actually quite affordable. They're not like super duper expensive. So I think that's really great, because that's one thing that you kind of worry about when, well, at least I worry about when I'm painting with a pan set. It's always very difficult, not always, but I find it difficult to find refills. They don't tend to sell them individually at art stores. You tend to get the tubes. So it's really cool that this company sells the EcoPods separately so you can always refill your palette. So you're being super friendly to the environment. So overall, these paints are not necessarily my style. Like I said, I really like vibrancy and pigmented paints, especially with the color green. That is like my go-to in every palette. I need to have like a good green. Perhaps I just didn't choose the right color palette, but having the option to purchase some of those EcoPods on their own at a reasonable price without the palette is definitely a plus. So if I did want to try some of the other colors to test them out and see if they're a bit more vibrant or a bit more my style, that is definitely an option. So that is a plus. I think initially I was pretty underwhelmed with these paints because they are a bit more on the texture side, which I don't absolutely love in watercolor paints. Some people absolutely love that. I'm not one of them. But it might just be the colors that I chose. So if you guys are into, niche kind of palettes where they're super aesthetically pleasing, eco-friendly, and just overall pretty cool, I think this is a great purchase. But if you're definitely on a budget and you're looking for a watercolor palette that just is vibrant, and can go a long way, this might not be for you. But definitely something to think about. But I'm glad I tried them and added it to my collection because, like I said, I have a palette addiction and I love them. For more information on these paints and this company, please check out the link to their website in the description below. I will also link the palette that I purchased, and that's about it. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I really hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you learned something. If there's any more product reviews you'd like to see me try, let me know what they are in the comments below, and maybe I will, get some. Have a great day, everyone. Bye.